The year was 2087. Humanity had reached out to the stars for decades, sending signals, probes, and dreams into the dark. Then, one day, someone answered. It started with a message from deep space, a signal not like any human-made wave. It was complex, layered, and filled with meaning. Scientists worked hard to decode it. When they did, the world stopped. "We are the Valari," it said. "We see you." That was how it began. The first ship arrived near Earth orbit 6 months later. It was sleek, silent, and huge, bigger than any building humans had ever made. It didn't attack, it just watched. Earth's leaders were scared but hopeful. They sent a team to meet them. Among them was Ambassador Lisa Harrow and Captain Daniel Reyes. Lisa was calm and smart. She had spent her life learning how to talk to people, even people who weren't from Earth. Daniel was a soldier, trained to protect diplomats. He was quiet, strong, and always watching. They met the Valari on a station built just for this moment. It floated between Earth and Mars, far from danger. The Valari were tall, taller than any human. Their skin shimmered like glass under moonlight. Their eyes were large and black, showing no emotion. They moved like water, smooth and fast. At first, the meeting went well. Both sides introduced themselves. Gifts were exchanged. Promises were made. But then came the laughter. One of the Valari, a leader named Veiltor, looked at Lisa and Daniel and spoke through a translator. "You call yourselves intelligent?" he asked. "You are loud, slow, and full of noise. You cry when hurt and shout when angry. You're like apes wearing clothes." There was silence. Lisa tried to smile. "We may be new to this, but we are willing to learn." Veiltor tilted his head. "Learning takes time. Time we do not have. You are not ready to sit among the stars." Daniel stepped forward. "We've come a long way. We've walked on moons. We've built ships that fly faster than light. We deserve respect," the Valari laughed again. "This time all of them. Fast? Compared to what? Your rocks and dust? You think you are advanced because you escaped your own planet? That only makes you lucky." The insult was broadcast live across Earth. Millions saw it, felt it. For many, it was a slap in the face. In schools, children watched their teachers replay the video. In homes, parents turned off the news in anger. On the streets, protests began. "They called us apes," people said. "They don't think we're good enough." The Valari left soon after. They said they would return when humanity was ready. But everyone knew the truth. They didn't want to talk anymore. Back on Earth, governments met behind closed doors. Not all leaders agreed on what to do. Some wanted to keep trying diplomacy. Others wanted to prepare for war. Among those who pushed for action was President Natalie Cross. She stood in front of the United Nations and said, "We were mocked. Not because we are weak, but because we are new. But we will not stay new forever. We will grow, and we will show them who the real apes are." Her words spread quickly. Some cheered. Others worried. Among the military, one name began to rise. Jason Klein. He was a fighter pilot who had retired early. He was known for thinking differently, for doing things others wouldn't. Now he was being called back. "Something's coming," his old commander told him, "and we might need men like you." Jason wasn't sure what to think. He had seen war before. He had lost friends. But something about the Valari felt different. Not like enemies. More like judges. And they had already decided humanity was guilty. Weeks passed. The Valari did not return. But other alien races did. Some were curious. Some were kind. One even offered help. A woman named Dr. Paul Green led the effort to study alien tech. She believed that if humans could understand Valari technology, they could prove their worth. But not everyone believed in proving worth. Some believed in proving strength. In hidden labs across the world, scientists worked late into the night. Engineers tested strange devices. Soldiers trained for battles they hoped would never come. And in the skies above Earth, more ships were built. Not for peace, for protection, but some feared that wouldn't be enough. Then came the message, not from the Valari, from another species, smaller, quieter. They called themselves the Nerex. They warned of a war council forming among the Valari, of plans to contain humanity before it grew too big. They see you as a fire, the Nerex said, and fires must be put out. The message was taken seriously. President Cross held a secret meeting with top generals and scientists. Jason was there. So was Lisa Harrow. "What do we do?" she asked. No one had an answer, only questions. Would the Valari come back? Would they bring weapons? Would humanity survive? And most importantly, could the apes become gods? As the sun set, over Washington, D.C., Jason sat alone on a bench outside the White House. He looked up at the sky. Stars blinked back. Somewhere out there, the Valari waited. And maybe, just maybe, they were wrong. Maybe the apes weren't done climbing. The meeting took place in a hidden room under the Rocky Mountains. It was deep underground, far from eyes and ears. No cameras, no phones. Only people who could be trusted. President Natalie Cross sat at the head of the table. Her face was tired but strong. Around her were generals, scientists, and leaders from different countries. They were here to talk about something most of the world didn't know about yet. War, not just any war. A war against the Valari. After the first meeting with the aliens, many had hoped for peace. But now, after their insults and threats, hope was fading. "We can't keep pretending," said General Marcus Bell, a man with gray hair and sharp eyes. "The Valari don't see us as equals. They see us as a problem." Across the table, Dr. Paul Green nodded. He was one of the top scientists working on alien tech. "We've been studying what we found during the first contact," he said. "Some of it is way beyond our understanding, but not all of it." He opened a folder and pulled out a picture. It showed a small device, black and smooth. It looked like a stone. "This came from the Valari ship," he said. "We think it's some kind of energy core. If we can learn how it works, we might be able to build our own weapons." There was silence in the room. Then Jason Klein spoke. Jason had been quiet until now. He had listened more than talked, but when he did speak, people paid attention. "We need to get ready," he said. "If the Valari decide to attack, we won't have time to build weapons later. We need them now." He looked around the table. "I've seen what they're capable of. Their ships are faster, their weapons are stronger, and they think we're weak. That makes us dangerous to them." President Cross leaned forward. "What do you suggest?" Jason stood up. "We start training pilots, we build better ships, and we find a way to fight back, and even if it means doing things we never thought we'd do." Another silence followed. Then the debate began. Some argued that going to war would make humans look like monsters. Others said diplomacy was still possible. But slowly the truth became clear. Peace was no longer an option. So the group made a decision. They formed a secret group called the Interstellar Defense Initiative, or IDI for short. Its job was simple: protect Earth, by any means necessary. Back in his office, Jason read through reports late into the night. His desk was full of papers, maps, and plans. He barely slept. He had been given a new role: lead trainer for the next generation of space fighters. At first, he wasn't sure what to expect. Would these new pilots be ready? Would they understand what was coming? The first day of training, he met the recruits. They were young. Some were ex-military. Others had no combat experience at all. He walked in front of them and said only one thing: "If you want to survive, you'll forget everything you think you know. Because this isn't Earth anymore, this is space, and space doesn't care how brave you feel." Then he started training them: flight drills, combat simulations, weapons testing. Every day was harder than the last. Some quit. Others stayed. Among the ones who stayed was a woman named Emily Rodriguez. She wasn't a pilot. She was an engineer, but she knew machines better than most. Jason noticed her quickly. She fixed broken systems in minutes. She understood alien tech in ways others couldn't. "Where did you learn this?" he asked one day. She smiled. Books, mostly old ones. I liked taking things apart when I was a kid. Never put them back together right, though. Jason laughed for the first time in weeks. You're exactly what we need. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, Dr. Paul Green worked with a team of scientists. They were trying to copy Volari technology. Most of it was too advanced, but some parts they could understand. One device caught their attention. It was a tool that could change the energy of a star. Dr. Green called it the solar destabilizer. If used correctly, it could destroy a star. That meant it could destroy entire planets. The idea scared everyone. What if we use it wrong? One scientist asked. What if we don't use it at all, and the Volari wipe us out? Another replied. Green stared at the device in his hand. We're not building this to use, he said. We're building it to show we can. But deep down, he knew the truth. Once a weapon exists, someone will use it. Back at the training center, Jason watched a flight test. Emily was helping fix a damaged engine while pilots flew above. He looked up at the sky. Stars blinked back. Somewhere out there, the Volari waited, and maybe, just maybe, they were watching, waiting to see what the apes would do next. Jason closed his eyes, then he whispered to himself, "We're not done climbing." The sky over the mining colony of New Haven was red with fire. Smoke rose from broken buildings. Ships lay in pieces across the rocky ground. People ran, screamed, or lay still and silent. It had started without warning. A Volari warship dropped out of hyperspace above the colony. It was sleek, black, and deadly. No message, no warning. Just weapons fire. Lasers tore through the main power grid. Missiles struck fuel tanks. Explosions lit up the night like lightning. Among the chaos, Emily Rodriguez worked fast. She was deep inside the control center trying to get the emergency beacon online. Her hands shook, but she kept typing. Come on. Come on. Behind her, a young worker named Leo cried for help. His leg was trapped under a fallen beam. Emily looked at him, then at the screen. One more click. The beacon sent its signal into space. Done, she whispered. Then she turned and pulled the beam off Leo's leg. Can you walk? She asked. Tried to stand, but his face twisted in pain. No, he said. Emily grabbed his arm and helped him up. We'll crawl if we have to. Outside, the sound of battle grew louder. Volari drop pods hit the ground like meteors. Tall, armored soldiers stepped out. They moved fast, shooting anything that moved. New Haven wasn't just under attack, it was being erased. Back on Earth, the signal reached the Interstellar Defense Initiative within minutes. Jason Klein was in a training sim when the alarm went off. He jumped out and ran to the command center. President Cross was already there, along with General Bell and Dr. Green. They attacked one of our colonies, General Bell said. No reason, no demand, just destruction. Jason stared at the live feed coming from New Haven. People were dying. This isn't war, Jason said. This is murder. President Cross stood tall. We warned them. We tried peace. Now they've crossed the line. She turned to the general. What do we have ready? General Bell opened a map of known space. We have 3 stealth frigates. One is almost fully crewed. The Liberty. Jason stepped forward. That's my ship. Cross looked at him. Then it's yours. You have full command. Your mission is to protect what's left of New Haven and gather intel. If the Volari are going to treat us like animals, we need to show them what happens when you corner one. Jason nodded. Yes, ma'am. He turned and left the room. There was no time to waste. 2 days later, the Liberty launched from orbit. It was small, but fast, designed for stealth missions and deep space ops. Its crew was made up of the best pilots, engineers, and fighters the IDI had trained. Emily Rodriguez was among them. Jason found her in the engine room, checking systems. You sure you want to be here? He asked. She didn't look up. Wouldn't be anywhere else. Jason smiled. Good answer. They took off into the stars. Their destination, the ruins of New Haven. When they arrived, Nothing remained but smoke and silence. The Volari were gone. But their message was clear. This could happen again, and again, until humans were gone. Jason walked through the remains of the colony. He saw burned homes, shattered ships, and bodies covered in dust. He clenched his fists. "They called us apes," he muttered. "But apes don't burn planets." Emily joined him. She held a data drive in her hand. "I found something," she said. Security footage from the attack. Jason looked at her. "Let's see who gave the order." Back on the Liberty, they played the video. It showed the Volari warship dropping out of hyperspace. Then came the voice. Baeltor. "The humans grow too bold," he said. "They must be contained before they become dangerous." Another Volari, Commander spoke. "They call themselves people, but they are animals, wild ones, and wild animals must be put down." The video ended. Jason sat in silence. Emily broke it. "What now?" she asked. Jason looked out the window at the stars. "Now," he said, "we fight back." On Earth, the world watched as news of the attack spread. The footage was leaked online, broadcast on every channel. People saw the truth. The Volari weren't just ignoring humanity. They were hunting it. In cities, protests turned into riots. In schools, teachers canceled lessons to talk about what happened. Some called for surrender. Most called for war. President Cross addressed the planet. "We are not animals," she said. "We are not apes, we are humans, and we will not be silenced." She announced the formation of the United Earth Fleet, not just for defense, for retaliation. On the Liberty, Jason gathered his crew. "We're not just observers anymore," he told them. "We're soldiers, and this is our war." They all stood, tall. Emily looked at him. "What's the plan?" Jason smiled. "We start by making the Volari afraid of the dark." The Liberty moved like a ghost through space. No lights, no signal, just silence. Jason Klein stood on the bridge, watching the dark void ahead. His crew was ready. Tired, but ready. The United Earth Fleet had officially launched its campaign against the Volari, but this wasn't a fleet mission. This was something else. This was war by shadows. Their target, a Volari supply station orbiting a dead moon. It was far from their main worlds, lightly guarded. Perfect for a hit-and-run attack. Emily Rodriguez sat at the tech console behind him, checking weapon systems. "All green," she said. "Lasers hot. Missiles locked." Jason nodded. "Good. Let's make some noise." He turned to his pilot, a young woman named Sarah Blake. "Take us in slow, don't wake the neighbors." Sarah gave a quick smile and guided the ship forward. The Liberty slipped into range, invisible to enemy sensors thanks to stolen Volari stealth tech Dr. Green's team had reverse-engineered. They weren't just fighting back now. They were learning how to win. The attack came fast. 2 missiles hit the main fuel tanks. Explosions lit up the dark. Alarms screamed across the station. Volari guards rushed to their posts, but it was too late. The Liberty dropped out of sight, vanishing before any counterattack could form. Back aboard the ship, Jason watched the feed. Smoke filled the screen. The station listed to one side, spinning slowly in space. "Mission complete." "Did we get what we needed?" he asked. Emily checked the data stream. "Yes. Communications logs, supply routes, movement schedules. This is gold." Jason leaned back in his chair. "Then let's find the next target." Across the solar systems, more attacks followed. Weapons depot destroyed in a flash of fire, a mining outpost crippled by sabotage, a patrol ship disabled and left floating in silence. The Volari called it terrorist action. Humans called it justice. In secret bases hidden on moons and asteroids, the IDI built new ships, trained new pilots, built better weapons, and they learned fast. Where the Volari relied on old tactics and superior numbers, the humans used speed, surprise, and fear. One name began to spread among Volari commanders: Liberty. Every time that name appeared near a battle zone, panic followed. Who were these humans? How did they move so silently? Why didn't they stop? Back on Earth, the war became more than just battles. It became a fight for minds. President Cross worked hard to keep people united. Not everyone believed in the war. Some still hoped for peace. But others saw what the Valari had done. They saw New Haven burning. They saw the video where Veiltor called them apes, and they wanted revenge. Protests grew. Cities divided. Some called for full-scale war. Others begged for reason. Jason didn't care about politics. He cared about staying alive and making sure the Valari never felt safe again. On board the Liberty, Emily worked late into the night. She sat in the engine room, surrounded by tools and broken machines. Sweat dripped down her face as she repaired a damaged power relay. Her fingers were black with dirt, but she kept going. Behind her, Jason entered quietly. "You're working too hard," he said. She looked up. "Someone has to keep this bucket flying." He smiled and leaned against the wall. "You ever think about going home?" She paused. "Sometimes, but not yet." Jason nodded. "Good. We need you here." She wiped her hands on a rag and stood. "I'm not doing this because I hate them," she said. "I'm doing it because if we stop, no one else will." Jason looked at her for a long moment. "We don't stop," he said. "Not until they learn our names." Meanwhile, in a lab deep beneath the surface of Mars, Dr. Paul Green made a breakthrough. After months of work, his team successfully copied the Valari energy core. Now they could build their own weapons, better ones, stronger ones. Weapons that could strike deeper than anyone thought possible. He sent a message to President Cross. "We can level the field." She replied with one word. "Do it." The war changed after that. Human ships no longer ran. They hunted. They struck first, and they vanished before the enemy could react. To the Valari, the stars were no longer safe. To humanity, the stars were finally. There's Jason stood on the observation deck of the Liberty. Looking out at the stars, Emily joined him. "They'll come after us harder now," she said. He didn't look away from the window. "Let them try," she smiled. "They won't expect what we're building." Jason turned to her. "No," he said. "They won't." Because while the guerrilla war raged, something bigger was coming, and soon the galaxy would feel it. Emily Rodriguez stood in a dark room. She wore a black uniform, not her own. The badge on her chest wasn't Earth's. It was Valari. She looked at herself in a small mirror. Not many humans had ever stepped inside a Valari command center. Fewer still had done it alone, and no one had done it to steal secrets that could change the war. It had started with a message from a spy deep inside Valari space. His name was unknown. His voice came through broken signals and hidden codes. He said he had proof that the Valari were planning something worse than New Haven, something final. President Cross read the message twice before making a decision. "We need that data," she said, "and we need someone who can get in and out without being seen," Jason Klein suggested Emily. "She knows their tech better than anyone," he said. "If anyone can pull this off, it's her." So here she was, on a floating city above a gassy giant, surrounded by aliens who would kill her if they knew who she really was. The summit was happening in the Hall of Unity, a massive dome made of crystal and steel. Inside, Valari leaders gathered to discuss the future of the galaxy, or more accurately, how to erase humanity from it. Emily walked through the halls like she belonged. Her disguise was perfect, her voice altered, her ID forged. She passed guards, diplomats and scientists. No one stopped her. She reached the central data vault. It was locked, heavily guarded, but she had help. From far away, Jason and his team monitored her vitals and fed her updates. "You've got 6 minutes," his voice said in her earpiece. "Then the next patrol comes." Emily placed a small device on the door. It beeped once. Then the lock clicked open. She slipped inside. Inside the vault, rows of glowing data drives lined the walls. Each held secrets, weapons, plans, orders. Emily, moved fast. She found the main drive labeled Operation Purge. She plugged in her memory chip. Data began to transfer. Lines of code filled her screen. Then she saw it. Images, maps, orders, human colonies marked in red, targets. All of them. Even Earth, A. Voice behind her made her freeze. "You're not supposed to be here." Emily turned slowly. A Valari scientist stood in the doorway. Tall, thin, eyes full of fear. "I know what you are," he whispered. Emily didn't move. The scientist took a step closer. "But I don't care." He looked around nervously. "They won't stop until your kind is gone," he said. "They call you apes because they fear what you might become." Emily stared at him. "Why are you helping me?" The scientist shook his head. "Because I believe evolution should not be silenced." He pointed at the drive. "That contains everything. The plan, the fleet movements, and something else." "What?" Emily asked. "A weapon," he said. "One that can destroy a star." Emily's breath caught. She looked back at the screen. Then she heard footsteps down the hall. "Guards." The scientist pushed her toward a side exit. "Go," he whispered, "before it's too late." Emily hesitated. Then she ran. She barely made it out, through vents, corridors, and shadows. She reached the drop zone just as the sky filled with alarms. A ship waited for her. Small. Fast. Jason's voice crackled in her ear. "Tell me you got it." Emily climbed aboard. "I got it," she said, breathing hard. "And it's worse than we thought." The ship lifted off. Behind her, the city lit up with red lights. Valari ships launched in pursuit, but the pilot was good. Too good. They vanished into the clouds, then into space. Back on the Liberty, the crew gathered. Emily stood in front of them, holding the drive. Jason sat across from her. "What did you find?" he asked. Emily inserted the drive into the main console. A map appeared. Valari fleets moving toward Earth space, orders to wipe out all human settlements. Jason swore under his breath. Then Emily showed the last file. A star, marked for destruction. Jason looked up. "What the hell is that?" Emily met his eyes. "They're going to burn a sun," she said. "Just to prove a point." Silence filled the room, then Jason stood. "We have to warn Earth." Emily nodded. "And we have to stop them." Jason looked out the window at the stars. The war had changed. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about revenge, and maybe something even bigger. On the bridge, the crew listened to the report. Fear, anger, shock. Jason turned to his pilot. "Set course for home." The ship turned and flew toward Earth. Toward war. Toward truth. Toward fire. The room was silent. Jason Klein stood at the front looking at the map glowing on the screen. It showed stars, planets, and one red dot in the middle, the Valari homeworld. Around him sat President Cross, General Bell, Dr. Green, and other top leaders from Earth. They had seen the data Emily brought back. Now they had to decide what to do with it. "This changes everything," President Cross said. "If the Valari are willing to destroy a star, we're not just fighting for peace." She looked around the table. "We're fighting for survival." General Bell leaned forward. "We need to strike first. If we wait, they'll come for us." Dr. Green shook his head. "This isn't just about weapons, it's about power. Once you cross this line, there's no going back." Jason finally spoke. "We don't have a choice." He walked up to the screen and pointed at the Valari sun. "This is our only chance," he said. "If we hit their star before they hit ours, we end this war before it destroys us all." There was a long silence. Then President Cross gave the order. "Begin Operation Nova Dawn." Back on the Liberty, Jason met with his crew. Emily Rodriguez sat near the front, still tired from her escape. "You really think this will work?" she asked. Jason looked at the plan on the table. "I think if we don't try, we die anyway." Emily nodded slowly. "What about the crew?" Jason looked around the room. Most of them were young. Some were scared, but they all knew what was coming. "I won't lie," he said. This mission is dangerous. Probably suicide. He paused. But if we do this right, we might save millions. No one spoke at first. Then Sarah Blake, the pilot, stood up. And one by one the rest followed. They were ready, even if it meant dying. In secret labs across Earth, Mars, and the Moon, scientists worked non-stop. Dr. Green led the final phase of building the solar destabilizer. It was small, no bigger than a car, but powerful enough to tear a star apart. It's not just a bomb, he told his team. It's a trigger, a way to start a chain reaction that will burn the star from the inside out. A young engineer looked up. And we're sure this won't hurt us? Green didn't smile. No, but if we don't use it, someone else will. On the Liberty, the crew trained for the mission. Flight paths, escape routes, emergency plans. Everything had to be perfect. Emily spent most of her time in engineering, checking every system on the ship. If we get close enough, she told Jason, this thing will tear the star apart. But we only get one shot. Jason nodded. Then we make it count. 2 weeks later, the weapon was ready. It sat in the cargo bay of the Liberty, wrapped in cold metal and silence. President Cross called Jason to a secure link. You understand what you're doing? She asked. Jason did. Yes, ma'am. She looked at him for a long moment. You'll be remembered, for better or worse. Jason didn't say anything, because he already knew. That night, Jason walked through the halls of the Liberty. He passed sleeping quarters, the mess hall, the engine room. Everywhere he went, people watched him. Some nodded. Others looked away. He stopped outside Emily's room. She opened the door. You okay? He asked. She shrugged. As okay as I can be. He smiled a little. Me too. She looked at him. Why you? Jason thought about it. Because I don't want anyone else to have to do it. Emily stared at him. That's brave. Jason shook his head. No, he said. It's just necessary. The next morning, the Liberty launched. It left Earth orbit and jumped into deep space. Its destination, the Volari home system. Its mission, end a war before it began. Its crew, ready to die. As they flew through the dark, Jason stood alone on the Riau bridge. He looked out at the stars. So many of them, so far away. He whispered to himself, we're not apes anymore. We're something new. And with that, the Liberty vanished into the void, toward fire, toward fate, toward the end of a star. The Liberty moved silently through space. Its lights were off. Its signal was hidden. It was alone, deep in enemy territory. Jason Klein stood on the bridge, staring out at the Volari homeworld. A blue-green planet floated beneath a bright yellow sun. That sun would soon be gone. Jason turned to his crew. Final check, he said. Emily Rodriguez sat at her station, hands moving fast across the controls. All systems green, she said. Weapon armed. Sarah Blake, the pilot, gave a thumbs up from the cockpit. I've got us on target, no sign of enemy ships yet. Jason nodded. Good. Let's make this quick. He looked around the room. This was it. No turning back. They had come far. From the first insult. From being called apes. Now they were here. Not as diplomats. Not as soldiers. As gods of fire. The plan was simple. Fly into the star's upper atmosphere. Launch the solar destabilizer into its core. Trigger the chain reaction. And escape before the explosion reached them. Simple, but not easy. The Liberty dropped out of stealth mode and dove toward the sun. Volari sensors finally picked them up. Alarms blared across. Their home system. Ships launched. Lasers fired. Missiles streaked through space. Sarah pulled hard on the controls. We've got company, she shouted. Jason didn't flinch. Keep going. Emily watched the weapons countdown. 3 minutes. To launch window. Behind them, 3 Volari fighters closed in. Jason pressed a button on his console. Fire everything. Guns roared. Lasers lit up the dark. One fighter exploded, another turned away. The third hit the Liberty's shield. The ship shook. Red lights flashed. Damage to port side, Emily said. Still flying. Jason gritted his teeth. That's all I need. The sun filled the view, massive, blazing, deadly. Emily's voice came through the comms. 60 seconds to launch point. Jason looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. He stood up. This is for New Haven. For Earth. For every human who was ever called an ape. He smiled. Let's show them what we really are. At 30 seconds, the Liberty entered the outer edge of the star. Heat alarms screamed, systems flickered. Temperature rising fast, Emily warned. Jason didn't look away. 10 seconds. Sarah held the ship steady. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch now, Jason ordered. The weapon shot forward like a comet. It pierced the sun's surface and vanished into the fire. Silence. Then, light. The star blinked. Once. Twice. Then it exploded. From the inside. A shockwave of fire and energy burst outward. The Liberty was caught in the blast. Brace, Sarah yelled. The ship tumbled. Alarms howled. Smoke filled the cabin. Jason lost consciousness for a moment. When he woke, the screen showed only black. Then a message appeared. Mission success. Emily gasped. It worked. Jason sat up slowly. Outside, the window, the Valari sun was gone. In its place was a growing cloud of fire and dust. The Valari homeworld was still there, but without its sun. It would freeze, die. Back on Earth, the signal arrived hours later. President Cross stood in the war room. She read the message. Then she looked at General Bell. They did it, she whispered. Bell stared at the screen. So did we. Across Earth, the news spread. The Liberty had destroyed a star. Humanity had struck back. Harder than anyone imagined. On the Liberty, the crew slowly came to. Lights flickered, systems rebooted. Emily checked the damage. We're alive, she said. Barely. Jason looked at her. That's all that matters. Sarah groaned from the pilot's seat. Can we please never do that again? Jason laughed. No promises. He stood and walked to the front. The stars blinked back at him. Peaceful, quiet. But something had changed. Humanity had crossed a line. There was no going back. The galaxy would remember this day. Not as a victory. Not as justice, but as a warning. Never call humans apes again. Because apes don't destroy stars. Gods do. The war was over, but no one felt like a winner. Back on Earth, the world watched as news spread across every screen, every city, every home. The Liberty had done it. A star was gone. The Valari homeworld was dying. And humanity? Humanity had become something new. Not heroes, not monsters, something in between. In Washington, D.C., President Natalie Cross stood alone in her office. She looked out the window at the dark sky. No stars could be seen through the clouds, just like no peace could be seen. Through the silence, her phone rang. General Bell's voice came through. We've lost contact with most of our deep space stations, he said. Other alien races are pulling away. Some are calling for sanctions. Cross closed her eyes. They're afraid of us now. Bell didn't answer right away. Maybe they should be. She hung up. Then she sat down. Alone. Even victory came with chains. On Mars, Dr. Paul Green walked through a quiet lab. The halls were empty. Most of his team had left. Some quit. Others refused to work on weapons anymore. He reached his desk and stared at a picture. It showed him with Jason, Emily, and the rest of the Liberty crew. They all smiled. Before the fire, before the fall, he picked up the frame. I just wanted us to survive, he whispered. Now we have. But at what cost? On the Liberty, the crew returned to Earth orbit. They were hailed as heroes. But inside, They felt like ghosts. Emily Rodriguez sat in the engine room, staring at broken parts. She didn't fix them. She just held a wrench and thought. Jason Klein found her there. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't look up. "Do you think they knew?" she asked. "That we'd really do it?" Jason leaned against the wall. "They knew," he said. "They just didn't believe we could." Emily finally met his eyes. "And now?" Jason sighed. "Now they do." Across Earth, protests began again, this time not against the Volari, but against their own kind. Some people cheered the destruction of the Volari sun, others cried. Children asked questions parents couldn't answer. Did we win? Were we right? Will they come back for revenge? Schools stopped teaching history, because history had changed, humanity had changed. In space, other alien species watched. The Nyrex sent a message. "We warned you about the Volari," Winnie read. "But we did not expect this. There was no offer of friendship, only a warning. We will not stand beside those who burn stars." The message ended with 3 words. "Be careful, apes." Back on Earth, the United Nations called an emergency meeting. World leaders argued. Some wanted to apologize. Others wanted to build more weapons. President Cross listened to them all. Then she stood. "We made a choice," she said. "A hard one. A dark one." She looked around the room. "But if we pretend it never happened, we will make the same mistake again." She paused. "We are not gods. We are not monsters. We are humans." She looked out the window. "We must live with what we've done." On the Liberty, Jason stood alone on the bridge. The ship was docked above Earth. He looked down at the blue planet. So small, so fragile. Emily joined him. "They'll remember us," she said. Jason nodded. "For better or worse." She looked at him. "Do you regret it?" He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "I regret that we had to." Emily looked out at the stars. "What now?" Jason turned from the window. "Now," he said, "we learn how to live with fire." Far away, in the ruins of the Volari system, a single signal blinked, weak, broken, but still alive. Somewhere in the cold dark, someone survived and remembered what the apes had done and what might come next.